Hi, everybody. This is Adam Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology, and these are your horoscopes for the month of May 2019. So this is the Sun and Rising sign horoscope for Geminis. All right, so the first 10 days of the month are pretty bonkers for everybody. Wait till you see just how many transits are unfolding. It's really pretty nuts. But I'm going to try to condense this explanation as much as I can. Oops, sorry. There we go. Let's get the right rising sign up. So we have at the very start of the month, your ruling planet Mercury is going through quite a powerful series of transits with Saturn, the South Node, and Pluto, all in Capricorn from the 11th house to the 8th house. It's also making a trine to Jupiter in your 7th house. It's also making a sextile with mutual reception to Mars in your 1st house. That's just the first 3 days. So, a very powerful time for your ruling planet. Typically, that means for both Geminis and Virgos, Mercury-ruled signs, that it's more personally felt. Now, because Mercury is sort of your ruling planet. Now, Mercury's connection here in the house of allies, friends, benefactors, with mutual reception to Mars in the 1st house feels really good. It's trine to Jupiter in the 7th, feels really good. It feels like beneficial connections, relationships, business agreements, romantic connections. It just feels like the everything's rolling in your favor, which I like. But I'm not crazy about the squares to Saturn, South Node, and Pluto in the 8th house. Be careful of gross compromises of your integrity in order to get the help or resources of someone else. Don't be surprised if you end up benefiting from someone else's misfortune. Someone gets fired, you get the job, or something like that. At the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if there were, like something that looked really great, but that there was a secret, very high price hidden. So I would be very careful about what you agree to. It kind of has the feeling of a devil's deal a little bit. There's also a feeling of finding some form of traditional support or backing. And then also a transformation of your mind, your philosophy, your approach, some deeper, heavier mental or intellectual confrontation in the first few days of the month with Saturn and Pluto getting involved. So a little theme of death and rebirth in there around a time that otherwise looks like very, like you're kind of rolling with forms of support, So I wonder if there aren't some deeper lessons in the first few days of the month that will be a little bit more challenging. Be careful of being overly rigid or too principled or inflexible at the beginning of the month as well, or for people who are being other people who are being that way. Now on May 4th, we're going to see the new moon in Taurus in your 12th house. So new moon in the 12th house is not exactly easy. The energy of a new moon is a new cycle to come. This is a 12th house cycle that you're in. So that typically would mean, you can deviate a little bit from a good course in the next month, or things can come up that rob you of something, your energy, your freedom, your happiness. It can be a little bit more of a grueling time where there's some karmic debt to be paid, so to speak. You're kind of just burning through something. Or it can be a time where literally there's more solitude, more aloneness, a more reflective or inward turning period. So those are some of the things to look for with the new moon. Now we turn the page from the new moon on May 5th and 6th. You're going to see a couple of things happening. Mars is going to oppose Jupiter from your 1st to 7th house. This has the feeling of potential ideological or philosophical conflict, possibly synthesis or creative compromise in relationships. Jupiter and Sag may be trying to convince you of something in the 7th house, a person, a teacher, a philosophy. Mars and Gemini in the 1st house, you're scrutinizing it, you're skeptical, you're analyzing it, you're opposing it. At the same time, Mars, Jupiter across the 1st and 7th has the feeling of, kind of mobilizing your energy, teaming up with someone, teaming up like a team, like what am I calling it? Like Navy SEALs getting together in a little squad and running a mission. It's like, Mars, Jupiter has kind of a bravado and almost like a mightiness to it, possibly joining with someone else in order to succeed or get some result that you're looking for. So potential synthesis of effort and resources, but yeah, potential combativeness philosophically in relationships as well. So then, also the theme of just like physicality, sports, things like that kind of come to mind. Now, when you go to, let's see, May 7th and 8th, right? At that time, then you're going to see Mercury and Uranus get together in the 12th house. This is normally a very kind of eccentric, inventive, sort of mentally unstable, but sometimes very innovative transit between Mercury and Uranus. Just, a breakthrough, a moment of greater clarification or kind of breaking the mold or the paradigm, thinking outside of the box, receiving epiphanies. But in the 12th house could be a little self-destructive, a great idea that's really not such a great idea, or some degree of rebelliousness or something that puts you as an outsider, something that ostracizes you. So that energy is pretty strong around the 7th and 8th. Then between the 6th and the 10th, same general period of time, Venus in your 11th house of friends and allies is going through a square to Saturn, South Node, and Pluto in the 8th house while making the trine to Jupiter, while also getting closer to making the sextile to Mars in Gemini. So again, same dynamic that Mercury was in. I think once again, we're looking at one of the important topics this month is, who are my allies and friends and who aren't, who isn't, who can I trust and who maybe is an enemy? What should I be dependent or reliant upon, and what or who shouldn't I be reliant or dependent upon? Issues around friends and changes, challenges, hardships encountered by friends. And, sometimes there might even be a theme of helping someone, helping a friend in need or something like that. But this is, again, a little bit more fiery, intense quality the first whole 10 days of the month, really. So then from the 10th to 15th, you're going to see things become a little bit more productive. You're going to see the sun moving into trines with Saturn, South Node, and Pluto in the 8th house, house of death and rebirth, with an extra trine from the moon in Virgo in the 4th house of home, family, roots, foundations. This has a very productive feeling behind it, but it's kind of has that feeling of going into some unconscious and potentially painful spaces again, because that 8th house is involved, because the 4th house of home, family, and roots is involved. I think that there is some kind of death and rebirth process happening right now around money or finances, around business partners, or maybe in relation to, again, like what kinds of people you want in your life that you want to share goals and ambitions with, and those that you don't. And I think right now it's tapping between the 10th to the 15th with the Grand Earth Trine. I think that those questions about who I can trust and who I can rely on and who I can't are going to get right down into some very fundamental issues. Where am I living? What is my base of support? How are some of these issues tied to ancestral or family karma? And so, again, I feel really mixed about this transit because it feels like it could be very productive, and which Earth, a lot of planets in Earth signs, you got a lot of productivity. But on the other hand, the 8th and 4th houses take us deep into like unconscious material. The 12th takes us deeper into our own shadow material. So, productive, but deep and possibly kind of heavy. The realizations that you have during this period, I'm sure, will be helpful and useful, but I don't think they'll be entirely easy. Now, going forward from there, full moon will be in Scorpio on the 18th. That's in your sixth house, a little bit of an embattled position for the full moon, especially with Mars, the ruler, in the second house of finances in its fall. I think that this has to do with work and financial matters that are not easy, maybe related to home or family as well. Maybe there's some difficulties happening in your family that are causing you to have to travel suddenly, or maybe there are expenditures that are coming up, illnesses, things like that, that aren't easy, that sidetrack you a little bit. Again, from right around that time of the grand Earth trine through the full moon, I think things get a little bit more challenging for Geminis this month. The good news is that there is also on the full moon a Venus-Uranus conjunction, which could provide the momentum for some kind of liberation. Venus-Uranus can be very liberating, sometimes very provocative, but there are choices that are being made to free ourselves from relationships or any kind of entanglements that are unhealthy. And that might be actually helpful during this time. Now, when you go forward from there, you get to about May 23rd. This is where I think things start to get a little bit, a little bit lighter. You can see, here we go. You can see around this time that Mars in your second house will hit a square to Chiron and Aries in the 11th, the wounded healer. Whatever you've been going through financially this month, or whatever, financial hits have come up based on difficult things happening around you, if any, I think this moment has the potential to provide you with healing and insight and learning and wisdom. So I think this is like the bandage that comes over any wound that may appear around the mid-month and full moon especially. Then finally, at the very end of the month, you're going to see between the 29th and the 30th, then you see Mercury getting in on an opposition to Jupiter from your first to seventh house while making a T-square to Neptune. Now there's back to this quality of philosophical dialogue in relationships, but it all hinges on Neptune in the career house. There's some kind of philosophical debate or back and forth that you're having this month. You can see it early on with such prominence from your ruling planet Mercury. There is support to be found this month, but there's also some really important philosophical distinctions you have to make. I am this, I am not that. I believe this, I will not do that. I will accept this form of support, I won't accept that form. I think that's what you're looking at. And I think the other thing I think is that making some of these choices results in, maybe a kind of contraction or consolidation or cutting your losses. There may also be some more challenging events around home, family, or money that come through around the full moon. But then by this time, I think there's an intuition guiding you. Mercury's square to Neptune, opposite Jupiter. There's some kind of philosophical synthesis that can happen here. And I think by the end of the month, things will turn for the better. You do want to stay really rational and grounded, because this could be a temptation at the end of the month to make some kind of, really bad philosophical compromise. But if you're staying rational and sticking to your truth, what you know to be true, then I think this will provide you with solutions where, earlier in the month, you may not have thought that there was a viable solution. So I would love to hear how things go. Obviously, I'm just kind of reading the tea leaves, in a very general way. So I always love hearing how people fill things in with their stories. I will look forward to hearing from you guys. Have a great month of May, and I look forward to hearing from you again and visiting with you for June's astrology. Okay, take care. Bye.